Welcome to another episode of the Thrive and Survive Research Hub. I have my co-host here, Tineiwo. How are you doing today, my friend?
How's it, guys? How's it, Alex? Good as always, eh? Good as always. How are you?
I'm good, bro. I've had a nice restful weekend.
Yeah.
Super excited to wrap it up with a nice podcast. But yeah, myself and T were having a nice warm-up conversation before this, and we were saying, okay, let's get this podcast going because we're gonna run out of time. But I think let's start with the topic that you mentioned before the call on mentorship.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
yeah, go ahead. You can line it up.
yeah. So I mean, I'd like to start off the topic by asking you the question, around how important you think mentorship is when it comes to someone's level of success.
I think what's interesting is, how they say you can learn either the hard way or the harder way.
Yeah.
I think mentorship plays a big role in that because you can learn from the wisdom and experience of the people around you if you are humble enough and if you are aware enough.
100%.
One of the things that I've been thinking about a lot this year is that familiarity breeds contempt. So, sometimes we'll hear something on a YouTube video from a person on the other side of the world, and we'll say,
Yeah.
sure, that's so profound. That guy is a
Yeah.
genius. Meanwhile,
100%.
your dad's been telling you that since you were 4 years old.
Yeah.
And every time
Same
you
thing.
said it, you just roll your eyes, So for me, mentorship plays a big role. I also find mentors can come in the form of books. So characters in books. You don't always have the luxury or the luck of having great mentors around you, because also mentorship is a two-way street.
Yeah.
To have somebody play an active role in your development as a person requires a special relationship. And
Yeah.
as as someone who's mentored a lot of people, it needs the right kind of like mentee as well, because they need to be receptive to the wisdom that you're trying to share with them. I always say advice that's not asked for is not heeded. If you are giving people advice that they don't want, it falls on deaf ears.
100%. 100%.
As you say, when the student is ready, the master appears.
100%, right?
So I think it's
And
a skill. I think it's a skill to be a good mentee, and it's one that you can cultivate.
And would I be going on the extreme end by saying that the minority of people are good mentees?
Yeah, because it's got a bunch of,
and that's why the majority of people don't have mentors.
yeah, it's got a bunch of traits that, and this is my personal opinion of what the traits of a good mentee is, but I would say humility is a big one, and mastery of your ego, in the sense of a good mentor will tell you sometimes the harsh, blunt truth of where you are self-sabotaging or where you are holding yourself back. And if your ego is not in check, you will probably miss out on that whole lesson. And the thing is as well, if they try and give you advice and you get defensive, they're going to think, okay, why am I wasting my time on this guy?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
A million things on my to-do list. I have 5 other people that I'm mentoring.
Yeah.
It's this guy's not ready for it,
100%.
What about yourself? So have you
Yeah,
sorry.
I agree. I think the success of any mentor is highly reliant on the mentee, the maturity of the mentee.
Mm-hmm.
And I also believe that mentorship is driven by the mentee. The mentor just presents himself to share his knowledge and share his experience, hoping that you'll find it receptive and build on it as you go along, right? And then through mentorship, also get fulfilled by seeing you climb the ladder and achieve the goals and ambitions that you've set for themselves. So for yourself. So for me, that's critical. That mentee is literally being mentored is literally about the mentee, how the mentee drives it, because the mentor will always be there. And I think once you have a relationship with someone who's willing to mentor you, they'll always pick up your call. They'll always be there for you. It's when you don't, live out the traits that you were speaking about that it's not possible to have a two-way relationship that consists of a mentor and a mentee.
Yeah,
The second thing is, I think a lot of people that mentor also know that they learn from the mentees because it
exactly.
gives you perspective, right?
Yeah,
And it allows for you to also look back and reflect on yourself back then. Because I also think, the best way to make decisions going forward is to look back.
yeah,
That's why data is so important in business and in life, right? So
yeah.
I think it gives you context as to like how the world has changed. You also pick up new insights and new trends about the world, right? Because mentees generally are much younger than you. They're more also in tune with the changing dynamics of society. And most of the time, a mentor is working at a much higher level than a mentee. So
Mm,
you don't get context of all the granular detail happening on the ground. So yeah, I think it's the traits of the mentee that are extremely important.
yeah,
But to conclude and to obviously express, the opinion that you said earlier on, and I also agree with you. Obviously, I don't know how factual this is, but the reality is that the minority of people are good mentees, and that's why the majority of people don't have a mentor. I think if this would change, if there was a bigger switch,
mm,
more people willing to be mentored in an economy like ours, then the chances of success for the youth would be a lot higher. And I think
yeah. Sorry.
in in, in an economy where we sit like this, where there's so much youth unemployment.
Yeah,
I mean, when I was unemployed, I looked for mentors. you know, and through that, I managed to get something. Yes, it wasn't the best, it wasn't a solid job and stuff like that, but I managed to start my own business. you
exactly.
know, so I think that mentorship is a critical part of any economy, and unfortunately, in my opinion, as South Africa, we are not where we need to be in terms of promoting this type of relationship with people outside of your personal circle.
Yeah, and do you know what's really cool? Like, I think that humility for mentorship, it begins when you say to yourself, whatever I need to do to achieve this outcome, I will do. I
Yeah,
don't care how much help I have to ask for, like how much I must sacrifice. Like part of it is sacrificing your ego and sacrificing your
yeah,
pride and saying,
yeah,
I acknowledge that I'm not enough,
yeah,
but I also believe I can be better if I have the
yeah.
right mentor.
Guidance.
Yeah. So, I think at a nationwide level, the best countries in the world are obsessed with excellence and they're constantly paying attention to the examples around them to see if there's something that they can pick up. So
100%.
there's sometimes this like unconscious mentorship where the person doesn't even know that you're learning from them, which
100%.
I was referencing books and podcasts and things like that. Some of my best role models were fictional characters when I was growing
Yeah,
up as a young man,
yeah,
because
100%.
I would see this 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 like character that had these traits that I found so appealing, and so I thought to myself, I see myself in that, but I know I'm
Yeah,
not there yet.
100%.
So
100%. 100%.
I guess I would also say is like when you're a mentor, you learn principles by teaching it yourself.
Yeah,
So like you don't know everything, but you have your experience. And by teaching it to the next generation, you actually solidify those principles for yourself. That's the
100%.
mutually beneficial exchange, right?
100%. 100%. And I'd like to add on to that. I also think the blessing in mentorship is that sometimes the person you're mentoring goes through something that you've never went through.
Yeah,
And you get the benefit of learning from the experience too.
100%.
And then passing that on somewhere else, or you know, uh, using the same kind of decision skill set should you also be in the same shoes. So yeah, I think it's definitely a two-way street, and that's why you'll see anyone who's highly successful will make time to mentor someone. They
For sure.
don't gain from it financially, but the returns are way beyond any financial measure, to be quite honest.
100%. Well said. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So yeah, next topic.
All right.
Off to you.
Yeah, that's mentorship wrapped up nicely. Um, okay, this one is an interesting one. Um, And like I say, I've always say we don't ever have to be perfect with our answers. We're just trying the best that we can, right? I
100%.
was thinking to myself, the subject of masculinity is one that seemed in the last couple of years to be a very culturally, I don't want to say culturally divisive subject, but there was a lot of confusion about what healthy masculinity is and what's toxic masculinity. And as young men, like, what should we try and be like, you know? Um, and so I guess the question that I would ask you is, what do you think healthy masculinity looks like? And
Yeah.
the simplified version is like, what is a good man by
Yeah.
your definition?
Sure. Good question, eh? So, I mean, to keep it very brief for me, healthy masculinity is basically not using your masculinity to get things done and respecting the environment around you.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is that toxic masculinity is when men use their aggression, their power, their male figure to force the environment that they're in to submit to what they want. And yes, it works. It's worked in the olden days, but the reality is that society has changed, and we now have a female generation that has access to the same knowledge that we do, and has also become a lot more independent than the past.
Mm.
So to exercise the same strategy that was exercised generations ago now doesn't work because it's not integrated with how the world has become. And therefore, that too needs to evolve as
Mm-hmm.
the same way the world has evolved.
Mm.
So for me, healthy masculinity is just integrating with how society has become and just respecting those around you. And I think what I've seen in my personal capacity, I've managed more ladies than I have men.
Yeah,
In all the companies that I've worked with more ladies than I have men.
same.
And I've managed to thrive in those environments purely because of the fact that I exercise my masculinity in the way that is appropriate to today's times.
Mm.
Not that I'm less soft, not that I I I I, I do everything the ladies say, but I do understand that they have a voice too. And if I want something done my way, I must justify it. And it must
Sure.
be based on facts and my experience. So for me, that is a good man. A good man is someone who exercises his masculinity based on facts and experience, not based on I want this because I'm the man.
Sure. Your masculinity
Yeah,
doesn't give you default authority over everyone around you.
100%, 100%. And you, what are your thoughts on it?
I think, you know what, I think what you've said lines up with what I think as well. I guess what I would say, healthy masculinity to me is it's made up of a couple of different pillars. One of them I would say is restrained strength. So I think as a man, it's good to build your strength in the different areas of your life. I think as a man, you should be emotionally, mentally, and physically strong. But I think the point of that strength is to protect and provide and not
Yeah,
to conquer. So, what you were saying earlier about exerting your will on everyone around you and trying to use your masculinity as a source of authority and your
mm,
masculine traits of strength as a source of authority is not the ideal. Um, the the strength aspect is a worthy ideal, but what you
mm,
do with it is the big thing that separates you between being a good man and a bad man. It's like Jordan Peterson
100%,
says, you need to be a dangerous man who chooses to not be dangerous. Because
100%.
it's that metaphor of the warrior in the garden instead of the gardener in the war.
Yeah,
Um, and I think the reason why there's so much confusion about masculinity for young guys today is because a lot of Western media and a lot of the movement towards equalizing this historical balance made people think that the way to be a good man is to be weak and to
yeah,
be docile, and you don't have any backbone. You're not you're basically like not even there, you know. And that's not a good man. That's not a man at all. You know, that's a nothing. That's a
The
so,
bully.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you don't have to choose between being a bully and a coward. There's somewhere in the middle,
Yeah.
and that's what I think a good man is. You know, so
Yeah. Yeah.
I think healthy masculinity is it's like the premise of when you open the door for a woman, you're not doing it because she can't do it for herself. You're doing it out of respect so that she doesn't have to. Um,
100%.
and that's the element of healthy masculinity, you know. And I guess what I want to say is like the traits that we identified of like strength, humility, respect, contribution, protection, and preservation are traits that women can have as well. Of course, they can have it, and of course, they can do it as well as men can. But I don't think they need it the same way we do to feel like men, you know?
Yes.
And again, like I
Yeah.
say, this is just you and me figuring it
Yeah.
out for ourselves. Um, but that's what I would say is a good man, you know?
Yeah.
A strong
And
man chooses to do good.
I think you hit the sweet spot there by saying, like you can have all this strength, but the powers are not using it, right?
Sure.
And I think that's what defines the difference between toxic and healthy.
Yeah,
Knowing what you're capable of, but not exercising it at the sacrifice of other people's happiness and opinion. So yeah,
exactly.
it's not an easy thing to do, but I do think that society today requires you to be a healthy man in terms of how you exercise your masculinity, because the old ways just simply don't work anymore.
Well, you
Our
know what?
females have
Yeah.
definitely evolved over time, and they deserve some sort of respect because of the high level of intelligence that they now have.
Yeah. You know what the thing is as well is like, I would argue that a weak man can be far more dangerous than a strong man because of the corruption that comes with being weak. And being
Yeah,
weak is not just physical, it's character, right? It's
yeah,
a weak person lies, a weak person exploits, a weak person
yeah,
manipulates. You know, a strong man's also a person with integrity and a person who's trying to contribute and do good, you know.
yeah,
And that's not, look, you must be a good man because you choose to be a good man, not because
yeah,
society says you must be a good man. No one can force you
100%.
to be good. It's an internal choice, you know.
Yeah,
One of
yeah,
the things that I always find interesting is, like, as an accountant, we did a lot of ethics training uh, throughout my professional career, and I always found it interesting because I thought to myself, it doesn't matter how many programs they train you with. If you want to be unethical, you're going to be unethical, because
yeah,
being unethical is not ignorance. It's a choice. It's a knowing, like, conscious choice. You've chosen this thing over the value, you know, over being valued.
mm, mm,
So,
mm, mm, mm.
like I say, if you want to be a good man, you do it because you believe it's the right thing to do, not
Yeah,
because there's a gun to your head and they're saying if you don't do it, we cancel you. That's not being a good man. That's being a coward.
yeah, 100%.
You know?
And I mean, and speaking of the word good, like they always say, good decisions brings good life and lots of
Yes.
peace. And yeah, I just don't think you can live in peace without exercising your masculinity in a healthy way, because we live with another gender. They are actually more than us. There's more females than males. So if you can't learn to live amongst females, then in my opinion, you're not a man.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're still a kid, you're still a boy.
Yes, exactly. No,
Yeah,
exactly. And I would say that we need each other. You know,
yeah,
men need a good woman, women need a good men. We're not
yeah,
here to replace each other. We're here
yeah,
to align with each other. That's the whole point of
yeah.
society, you know. Um, but yeah, I think this is something you and I must put a pin in because we can talk on it more later as well.
Forever,
It's a
100%,
very
100%.
fun topic to discuss. Okay, then this last one. This is also one that I think is a bit of a buzzword, but mental health. So the question that I have for you is, what does mental health mean to you? And if you had to design a framework for cultivating it, what would that look like?
Mm. Personally, and I mean, the answer I'm giving you is just on my personal opinion, eh? For me, I think the first step to mental health is learning how to be alone. That's the beginning. I think that's the beginning, because it is in that state that you are able to reflect, you're able to look at the world objectively as well, and it's also the state that you're also getting to know yourself, you know. And I think once you neglect that, then you can't build a normal or a healthy state of mental health. First one. So for me, that's the most paramount thing. Spending some time alone.
Yeah.
Second thing for me is having a hobby.
Yeah, you
Having something
with your golf.
you
I see you on your
you know,
Saturdays.
you know. And like hobbies evolve, right? I mean, when I was
Yeah.
young, it was sport. When I was in varsity, it was reading. Now it's become golf. But I know that this, for me to be mentally stable, I need to do something that just helps me escape temporarily from the world. And that is golf. The third thing for me is your relationships. So maintaining relationships with people that mean a lot to you, and also the people that the universe has put into your life, i.e., your family, your parents, your wife, you know, your bloodline, and then your spiritual family, which are your friends, you know, who become family because the universe put them there.
Yeah.
And then, last but not least, moderation of all things you enjoy.
Oof. Yeah. Great.
So for me, if you can have those five in a framework,
Yeah.
then you're more likely to maintain a healthier state of mind, purely because those pillars essentially determine how you feel. And I'm going to speak on moderation because that's the one that we all tend to fail to master.
Yep.
Moderation of all things, enjoyment, money, everything. If you can moderate everything you love, I think there's a higher chance of you being happier and having a healthier state of mind on the basis that you've ticked off the other four that I mentioned.
Well said.
So yeah, that's my answer. And what's yours?
That's a great answer, T. I must say, that's a great answer, especially the moderation. But we live in a society of excess. So
Yeah,
you never before in history have we ever had to be so focused on restraint for ourselves
yeah, yeah.
than this time that we're living in.
100%,
Um,
100%.
I love the things that you said. Being alone, 100%. I meditate every day. It's like a practice of mine. I started doing it when I was 19 because I used to be quite an anxious kid. And I learned that meditation teaches you to be still with your thoughts
Yeah.
and to be present. So I actually saw it as a much competitive advantage. I used to go write exams and everyone around me would be freaking out. And I was
Anything.
like Zen weirdo meditating with my eyes open. I
And
literally,
Zen state, right?
yeah, because meditation is just being present. So
Yeah,
it's saying when you feel nervous, it's acknowledging the nerves instead of saying,
yeah.
I'm nervous, I don't want to stop being nervous.
100%, 100%,
I'm
100%.
nervous, and you acknowledge it. It's like, I don't want to segue too much, but like in Buddhism, there's the story of the Buddha where he's meditating at a tree, and I'm going to butcher this, so sorry to everybody who knows better than me, but this is my understanding.
Nah,
He's
all good.
meditating at the tree, and fear and anger manifest themselves as these like monsters or demons, and they come to the tree. And instead of him saying to these things, get away, he welcomes them to sit with him and offers them tea. And he says, come sit and rest as long as you want, essentially. And eventually they just go away and they leave him alone. And, the principle there, if you don't see it, is like that's how it works with your emotions as well, where instead of saying when you feel anxious or stressed or angry, I don't want to be angry, I don't want to be stressed, it's accepting the emotion and saying, stay as long as you want, and allowing it to kind of work through you and dissipate, you know?
Wow, so well said.
So that's what you said there, about being alone. It gives you the opportunity to cultivate emotional regulation, which
Yeah,
I think is a very big part of mental health, emotional
100%,
regulation. I would add
100%.
that as a fifth pillar in your framework, which I think is great. So,
Mm.
emotional regulation, for those who don't know, sometimes as a man, you feel you need to be emotionless. A lot of the portrayals of masculinity in media portray these super strong, tough, masculine men who don't feel anything for anybody. And they're just like, invincible, which is bullshit. No one is invincible. And the truth is, it's healthy to feel your emotions. But regulation is saying, okay, I will feel the emotion, but I will choose my response based off of values.
Yeah.
So it's saying, I know I'm angry. This thing pisses me off, but I'm not going to react in anger. And that's emotional regulation. So, we've spoken about between stimulus and response, there is a gap.
Yeah.
Freedom. And you have the freedom to choose how you respond to the things that happen to you. So that is a great manifestation of emotional regulation. And I would add one more thing, which is biology. So if anyone is a fan of Andrew Huberman, who is a Stanford professor, he's been on Joe Rogan, he's been on Tim Ferriss, he's big. I think he's in the top 10 most successful podcasts of 2023. Is the Huberman Lab, number 3, which is very, impressive for a science-based podcast. But Andrew Huberman talks a lot about neuroscience, and he talks about the neurochemistry of the brain, which plays a big role in the regulation of your motivation levels and your levels of contentment and your levels of stability and stress and anxiety. And the truth is, your neurochemistry behaves according to stimulus and response. So certain behavioral practices will optimize your neurochemistry, and certain behavioral practices will disrupt them. So we talk about moderation. If you practice moderation in terms of pleasure, your neurochemistry will respond accordingly, and your motivation levels will be healthy. Your satisfaction levels will be healthy. But if you practice excess in terms of pleasure, you will find disruption in your neurochemistry, which leaves you feeling bad, which is part of, mental health. If you think about mental health, it's your mental state. So I think what I would add is a good understanding of neurochemistry, in not like a scientist level, but just understanding, okay, if I spend 3 hours scrolling on Instagram, my dopamine levels are going to be depleted. I'm going to feel like shit. Let me not do that.
Exactly. And I mean, I like what you mentioned there around, the neurology around it, because the reality is that moderation allows for you to master things. And if you want to take it down deeper, you master things because of the neurological response that is given off when you moderate that thing. Exactly. And when you don't tap into access. Access is dangerous. Access of all things, anything. Exactly. Anyone who wants to dispute with me on that, you're welcome to. But I've never ever come across anyone who has told me that access of anything, even that they love most, has benefited them or whatever they're trying to love.
Sure. I think the evidence points in your favor there, T. The evidence points in favor of your argument.
Access, bro. I mean, and people, and surprisingly, people argue it, right? People say you live once. There's a term called YOLO, but all those are new age concepts that have no substance behind them. That drive capitalism, that drive. I mean, the entertainment industry is driven by that.
Of course.
Right. But if you don't read enough and you don't understand how the body works, how the brain works, how your hormones work, then you're going to fall for this stuff. And then you fall into the 80%, and then you wonder why you don't get to the top. Right? You might get there financially, but then you get to the top emotionally drained and in a very imbalanced state of mind.
So I would urge anybody who's curious about this like neurochemistry that we're talking about. Andrew Huberman does a great expose on the subject, where he talks about dopamine, he talks about serotonin, he talks about practical principles and protocols designed to help you optimize this area of your life. And I can tell you, as somebody who's implemented those things myself in my day-to-day routine, and I've actually helped a lot of friends implement the same things that I'm doing. really it makes a difference. For example, what I do during the week is I don't go on social media unless I'm creating something. So I don't consume, but I create. And so on the weekends, I'll allow myself to go on and chat with people, catch up, laugh at some memes, have a good time, whatever.
Yeah.
It's that moderation, having these rules in place to help me moderate. And that makes it so that during the week, my mental energy is so much higher because I'm not depleting it on things like this. My dopamine levels are used for work and exercise and learning. And another example is having a consistent sleep schedule contributes a lot to your mental health. So for me, I wake up at the same time every day. It doesn't matter. Last night I went to bed at 11:30. I don't know. You can see the bags under my eyes. It looks like I'm going on holiday with the sluggage.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I woke up at the same time today because I've learned, not to go too deep into it, but like your circadian rhythm, every cell in your body is operating according to a clock. And when you wake and when you sleep, that clock is set accordingly. So when you build the circadian rhythm, your whole being is designed to work according to that schedule. So when you sleep in, you're disrupting this whole process and you will feel a difference. I felt it like the one time in the last couple of weeks I slept in once. And the whole day, I felt like my whole being was in disalignment.
100%.
And I thought, wow, you don't know how good you feel all the time until you don't feel good. It's like, when you're healthy and your nose is clear, you take for granted breathing through your nose until you get sick.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
It's exactly the same. So yeah, mental health, guys, there's practical things you can do, and we'll cover it in a future podcast episode and give credit to the people that actually came up with the stuff. But it really makes a difference.
Yeah. I love the neurochemistry topic. I definitely think we need a podcast that solely focuses on that because, I mean, neurochemistry is influenced in so many ways. And, I think things like religion and stuff were created just to kind of dim it down, because the neurochemistry stuff can get a bit complex. But 100%. I think if you understand the full circle, then you're even able to practice faith at a higher level.
For sure.
That's just my opinion, right?
For sure. I agree. And
in a sensible way too, right? And in a very sensible way too.
Yeah. I would add one thing, which is more of a macro principle, is your mental health is your responsibility.
Yeah.
It's no one else's. And when you take ownership of that, it will change your life.
Yeah.
Because you realize no one's coming to save you. You've got to do it for yourself. No pull, no friend, girlfriend, job, no achievement is going to give you your mental health. You have to create it and maintain it yourself. It's like a daily commitment of saying, I will do the work so that I can be this person.
100%.
If you don't do it, it's like going to the gym. You can't go to the gym once and expect to be athletic. You must go all the time. Brush your teeth
100%.
every day.
100%.
Mental health is a 100%. Daily practice. So
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I saw such a funny YouTube video. I think the internet is amazing. Honestly, this guy was singing a song about mental health and he was like, I drank 10 cups of coffee yesterday. I slept 3 hours. Why is my mental health bad? It's like, I went to the club last night. I was
identifying everything, right?
Why is my mental health bad? It's like, and I will do everything and try everything except change. And I thought that's
all the triggers.
Literally, it's not rocket science, people. I mean, if you're sleeping 3 hours a night, you're gonna feel bad. Come on.
Yeah, 100%. And I think also, and I like that thing. You must actually send it to me. Using humor to educate and really signal out how the things you think or the things you ignore are actually the reason why you're not happy.
Yeah.
All the things you ignore. Oh, I'm so tired. But yes, you went out at 11 o'clock yesterday. You can ignore that, right? But you're gonna go sing about how tired you are and you wanna feel more energized.
Yeah. Maybe it's not your coworkers. Maybe it's your lack of self-care.
Yeah.
It's not your
100%.
family, it's you. That's why I say responsibility. Like when I was working at my last company, there was this movement from employees where everyone was complaining about stress and mental health awareness. But the firm had made so many resources available to us that no one even knew about because they didn't bother looking. You know, we had free subscription to Headspace, the meditation app, but no one meditated. You know, we had incentives in place for free gym classes at the company, but no one exercised. You know,
Yeah.
you got a subsidized kitchen where there's salads, protein, all the healthy things, but everyone's overweight because they Uber eats bad things. You know,
100%,
and who
100%.
sponsors it? The company. The company doesn't care enough about our mental health. It's like, come on, guys. You know what?
Yeah, with the limit.
You can lead the horse to the water, but if the dumb thing doesn't want to drink,
Then it's his own fault, right?
he's gonna drown himself. I mean, he's gonna die of thirst himself. You know.
Yeah.
So,
So, but not
that's our time, man. That's our time, man. Good place to wrap it up.
100%, 100%.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for this participating in this whirlwind of an episode. We tried to get through a lot of content very quickly. Lots of fun episodes coming up soon. And T, thank you so much for the wisdom as always.
No, thanks for the wisdom, Alex. I'd like to point out in particular once again, neurochemistry.
Yeah.
What a lovely topic, and I can't wait to expand on that further in the next podcast to come.
100%. All right, everybody. That's us. See you next time.
Cheers.